Welcome back. We're on part 3 of building our mobile raised container planter, and we're pretty close now to getting finished up. The next step is going to be to attach these brackets or supports for our interior rails to form the V for the planter. And a couple of tricks on this to get this positioned just right. We'll go through that in just a minute. Okay, to get these positioned just right, the first thing you need is your small combination square. And what you want to do with that is on this middle support board that overhangs this cross brace on the leg assembly, set your square for exactly that overhang amount. Then we're going to position this and use this to establish the offset up here at the top, because the offset up here at the top needs to be the same as this, and in theory that'll make this and this be at a right angle. But there's a couple other things that we need to do. One is we want to make sure that this 45-degree angle, when this is set up here, is exactly flush with the outside edge of the leg. And helps do that, the easiest thing is just to take a scrap of wood and clamp it here to the leg. And that way, when we position it, it can just ride right there. So that positioning will take care of itself. So what we need to concentrate then on is this position up here. Now, there are a couple of different ways to attach this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue on this face here so that it's glued down to this board. And then so that I don't have to clamp it, I'm just going to shoot a couple of 23 gauge pins in there, and that'll hold that while the glue sets up. A couple of reasons for the glue there. This end grain can get water in it pretty easy, and the glue will kind of seal that end grain. Secondly, if I tried to put screws in there, it's pretty close to the edge. Good chance it could split. Also, the screw faces can provide places for water to come in. So by gluing it and just using a couple of 23 gauge pins to hold it in place while the glue sets, I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So let me move the camera in a little bit closer and we'll get this first one in. I'll show you how to do it. All right, so here we go. Let's put our first support board in place. A little glue on here. Putting it on a little thick. I'm not too worried about squeeze out down here, but I'll wipe it up. Alright, and what I want to do now is I want to position this even with the end of this board and even with this edge over here. And then up here at the top, I want to make sure that I've got this offset just the right amount. And there we go. And let's check this down here. Check it up here. That looks good. Make sure I'm flush out here to the end. All right, and that's pretty good. I'm going to shoot one. That'll hold that position, and then we can still rock it a little bit. Yeah, I just need to come this way just a little bit. And then I'm going to, right here in the middle somewhere, I'm just going to shoot one in here. And then I'll shoot a couple more down here. Okay, that'll hold that in place. Now, what I can do perfect. And get rid of this. Get it out of my way. Ready for the next one. And then we're going to attach it up here at the top with a couple of screws. And we're going to use our same number 8 screws. And what I've done is I have set this combination square for the offset in here plus 3/4 of an inch. Yeah. And that's going to make sure that I get these positioned just right. And you'll notice that I have a piece of tape on this drill bit because I'm only drilling 3/4 of an inch in. And the reason I'm only drilling 3/4 of an inch in is because because I'm making a clearance size hole, not an actual pilot hole. The screws will tap in the rest of the way. Double check my positioning here. Yep, still good. I countersink these holes because I don't want the screw heads protruding and interfering with my boards that go across. So there we go. That's in, sturdy, and as soon as this glue dries, we'll be really set to go. Got 5 more of these to do, and get those done, and then we're ready to start putting our boards across. All right, so all our angle supports now are installed on the unit, and it's time to start putting in the boards. Now, this board that runs across the center is 71 5/8 inch long. So we need to cut these boards exactly the same length. I've cut a couple of boards, and then on one of the boards, I cut a 45-degree angle down the edge, the length of the board. Now watch this. You're going to say, man, this guy's pretty smart. Well, maybe not, but I hope you do. So we take our board with the 45-degree angle and lay it in here. And look at that. It lays down perfectly flat, matches up with the edge of that board, got it lined up at the end, and now we can take another board, this one with square edges, and lay this in here, and look at there. There is our bottom angle. And all we got to do is just layer these boards up the sides until we get to the top. So I'm going to go ahead and cut some more 71 5/8 inch boards and start to mount those. But when we get up here to the top, we're going to cut another 45 and we're going to make that come out flush, sheer to these edges. To mount these, I want to use number 6 screws because I don't want to take any chances on these splitting out. And I'm going to use 1 1/4 long screws. Now this is 3/4 and 3/4, that's 1.5 inches, so 1 1/4 inch screw. By the time it gets countersunk in a little bit, will come right to the edge of this board but not pop through. We want to make sure no points of the screws pop through, and we want to come up from the underside and put those screws in. So that's just a lot of drilling holes and mounting screws. I'm going to get to work on that, and we'll come back and we'll talk about how we're going to finish up these top corners. Okay, I've got all the boards now screwed in on both sides up to close to the top up here. This one is about 2 3/8 of an inch left over, and this one's about 3 5/8 of an inch left over. And what we need to do now is rip a board with a 45-degree angle to fit on both sides. Now, I've ripped this one to size, length and width, and it fits just like that. And when screwed down, we'll have a nice flush surface here. And eventually we're going to mount a face board across here. To get this to size, I measured up to this part of the angle and I set it on the table saw, but I did take a scrap and cut it to make sure it was the right size before I cut the full board. Last thing in the world I want to do is cut it too small. So I'm going to screw this one into place. I'm going to go ahead and rip this one to size and screw that into place. And then the only thing that's left to do is our ends. Very important how those are built. So let me get these two boards done and I'll be right back. Okay, to make the ends, the first thing to do is to make pieces that are going to fit to the insides of these boards. Now, this is a little bit of a three-handed trick, but we can do this. What you want to do is line up the bottom of the board exactly with the V there. And then you really need to get the board level. Now, this is all assuming that the floor in your shop is level. If it's not, just make sure you get the structure, the planter itself level. All right, once you've got that level, exactly level, oh my goodness, there we go, there we go. Then, just draw your lines on the board, and those will be your cut marks to make the first inside piece here. See? Let me go cut that and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so here's what this is going to look like. This is going to mount right here. And then in a similar way, we'll just cut the next piece. And it's going to go right here. And it'll take one more piece, ripped to size, and then cut up here for the top. But don't assemble or screw this in yet because we're only half finished at this point. And unfortunately, we're going to have to finish this up in the next video because we're running out of time. I really do appreciate you watching this. In the next video, we're going to wrap this project up. Maybe I'll even get some dirt and some plants into this thing. That would be really, really cool. Well, thanks for watching. Look forward to seeing you in the next video.